Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Okay, guys, this is a special feature episode because we have an announcement to make. And if you are a competitor, you will not want to miss this because it just so happens to be the biggest event in bodybuilding ever, and someone really special who you guys have heard on this podcast many times before, someone who is super well known in the industry. And if you don't know his name, you'll know his voice from his podcast. But we're going to be talking about something really cool coming for the Olympia week at the Contest Prep Center with Team Elite Physique. So I've got Adam Bonilla here with me.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great. And I'm excited about this Olympia coming up for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, especially because when you went out to Vegas, it wasn't necessarily like what you expected with the Olympia. So now you really get to have that full experience.
Yeah, definitely kind of sucked. We moved to Vegas and all the shows moved away from us. It was like literally like I was like the desperate boyfriend chasing a girl who doesn't like the guy who just doesn't get it. Like she just doesn't want you, you know? I was like, Olympia, I thought you guys wanted me. They're like, no, screw you. We're going to Florida. And the USA's left. Everything left. I was like, man, so this is like the first year where shows are here and we're like we can count on them 100% being here. There's not gonna be anyone shutting down. I remember a couple years ago, we like had a show. We're at the show. Did they ever tell you the story of like the Vegas show
with the whole contest? Hookah lab or hookah lounge?
Still to this day, that is the best show experience I've ever had. Like better than my Olympia experiences, my Arnold experiences. The best day I've ever had as a coach. It was so fun. It was scary, but it was fun. So we're like, we're remodeling my building, which was like in plastic and dust was everywhere and all these things. And we decided to bring a crew from Denver to Vegas. And we're about to do a seminar with Ashley, like a posing seminar in front of muscle contest. And then like Tarek is there and Tamer's there and they're acting real weird. You know, they're acting like real, like they're trying to keep it cool, but everyone keeps whispering in their ears and people keep coming up to them. And I'm like, and then my crew is like, are you seeing what's going on with them? They feel like they look anxious. And I was like, yeah, that is weird. That's definitely not like Tamer and Tarek, right? And then they're like, they canceled the posing seminar when everyone's there. And they're like, yeah, hey guys, we got to go, but we're going to go handle something. We'll see you guys later. Right. And so we're like, that was weird. Why did they cancel? We're all thinking, oh, are they canceling the show? The city like canceled the show, right? Canceled the show at the venue, but they didn't want to freak everyone out. So they didn't say anything. And they went out that whole night, like trying to fight it at City Hall, but it was too late. They couldn't, the City Hall was closed. And then, so they ended up like finding this like gray area in like a hookah lounge where you're allowed to have like hookah lounges with like X amount of people. And so everyone had to wait outside in like 110 degree like heat in like, I don't know, it was July or something, while only like 30 people could compete in this hookah lounge. They just moved all the furniture in the hookah lounge.
My God.
And we're just doing this show in this hookah lounge. And Tamer and Tarek have the music pumping and they're like emceeing it and they're making it like a real thing. Like they're going all out and they're having like a party in there. And it was like they're screaming and having fun. And then all of a sudden, like we're getting through it. And it's like the most fun, like everyone's having a good time, even though it sucks. We're just like, whatever, we're doing it, you know? Yeah. And the very last class, they're going for the overall in bikini. And then like the city walks in with their badges and like shuts it down. The music has to stop and it's like a dead silence. And we're just trying to like judge it. Like they're judging it like while the city's there, it's this whole thing. And then like Tamer's like, at the end of it, he's like so happy he got it done. He's like, Adam, he's like, to get this hookah lounge, to get everything to work, he's like, it cost me like 25 grand. Like I lost about 25 grand to make this show happy to run. He's like, but I'm so happy. He's like, I've never been so happy to get this done, even though I lost so much money. It was like, and after that, I was like, okay, I'm super loyal to muscle contests because
Yes.
everyone else would have just said, screw it. They wouldn't have just went in their pocket 25 grand to get this hookah lounge. I guess the hookah lounge guy like really like, put him over the coals for last minute rent because he know he needed them. And I was like, dude, you just use my building. It's in shambles. I don't know. We can make it work in this weird, like destroyed building, I guess somehow. But they were like, well, we can find something better. So it was definitely a experience, the best experience. Like it was just so fun. And it was just like the best fun time I had as a coach. So
that sounds so fun. Actually, Holly Larson, your athlete, told us a little bit about her experience of that on the podcast when I had her on, but I love this side of the story because it really highlights like the grit and the determination in this community. And man, that doesn't surprise me at all that Tarek and Tamer would do anything they could to make it happen. And that's part of the reason why I love muscle contest shows too. And I'm so happy that they actually brought stuff back to Vegas, even with those experiences, and probably having positive experiences like in Arizona and Florida, but they brought it back to Vegas. And that's so great for you and for other fitness businesses and coaches there, because that's such an allure of being in Vegas, is having those shows.
Yeah, it's a great place. That's the thing too. I went to Pittsburgh and Florida, and I mean, I go all over, but it's so expensive to go to like Pittsburgh and do a show. It's so expensive to go to Florida and do a show. If you go to Vegas, it's like everyone has deals on flights. It's like $50 from California. It's $40 from Denver sometimes. You can stay at a hotel for like less than $100. It's just, and then you could go have fun after you're done with the show. It's like, it's just a perfect place for shows, and it's super cost effective too. So I don't know, I like it. And that's why we moved here too. We moved here because, Ashley moved here from California, and then I was having a problem with the city in Denver, with keeping my gym open in Denver. So then I ended up coming here, and it's been great. Yeah, it's been really good.
So awesome. I'm so happy that you guys made that move, and you guys have done so much for the industry already out there with the posing clinics. And then we've done an event there. You've got your podcast studio in the CPC, which is just so cool. And now we've got the excitement of this year's Olympia coming up, and you are planning to have a week full of events, one of which will be mine. But what can athletes expect coming to the Contest Prep Center during the week of the Olympia this year?
Yeah, so we're gonna, and just so you know, we'll be putting out all the details too, but we're gonna have a ton of things going on. And that's the thing about, and that's why I call it the Contest Prep Center. I never wanted it to just be Team Elite Physiques, right? I think if it was just Team Elite Physique, the building, it would be kind of ostracizing to anyone on a different team. But Contest Prep Center, it's like neutral ground, right? It's neutral territory for everyone. Because some people are like, oh, I'm on this team, I feel like it's not loyal for me to go there. And I'm like, it's not loyal for you to go there. Your coach is invited. Like you can come. I don't care. And so that's the thing, is like the community part of it is this sport is so ostracizing on its own. You're doing your cardio alone, you're doing your workouts alone. None of your friends understand it. Your boyfriend's mad at you. Like it's a whole thing. Like at least get the community of people that are suffering through this together and make it a little bit more fun. And this, like the team thing isn't a rivalry thing. I just got off a podcast with James. You saw that. Like, and so, everyone's invited here. They can come here all the time. I have other people here all the time. So we're going to have, not just me, but we'll have other teams here, doing events, doing things like, well, your event's going to be awesome. We're going to have bikini boot camps in terms of, different coaches coming in and teaching glute exercise, teaching boot camps. Our coaches doing boot camps for full bikini boot camps, like glute pump days. Probably 3 days of that week we'll be doing them, where it's like a bikini boot camp, maybe more if we get more demand for it. We're going to have posing classes all the time. We're going to have massage people that are in here. A lot of different specialists, a lot of different seminars. And if you're a coach and you're listening to this and you want to bring your team in for maybe you have a big crew doing the amateur Olympia or even the actual Olympia, like message me, bring your people in here. So the gym will be open for, because it's not a big gym, it's 6,000 square feet. So the gym will be open for any Olympians doing the Olympia. So they'll be here posing, whatnot. And then for the rest of the time, it'll be open for just during like the seminars and stuff, which there'll be a lot of for anyone who's not doing the Olympia, just because it'll get too busy if we did it that way. So
totally. And is that for like amateur Olympia competitors too, or just the like pro Olympians?
So it'll be dependent on demand, but I'm imagining we can get the amateur Olympia competitors too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it'll just be like open time. So it'll be cool. You'll see a lot of like the big names here posing, and we'll have a bunch of posing seminars. We're probably going to have like 3 posing seminars that day, that week alone. So it's going to be cool. And I'm just trying to collab with as many people as we can to make it a real, like a real event, you know, like a real benefiting event. Cause I feel like people come to the Olympia and then they go to the expo and they get all this excitement, but it's like you miss an opportunity to really grab them and teach them and have them have even a better experience where it's like, hey, I got to go to a workshop. I got to learn about bikini, not just watch bikini. I'm super motivated when I left here. I learned some new exercise techniques. I got to meet 3 of the best guys in the world, you know, that type of thing, you know? So I want it to be a real, like, I guess you like a pilgrimage to to the Olympia week where you're like here doing stuff all week long, you know?
Yes, I think it's such a good idea. And like you said it really, really well, which is like you can go to these big shows and you get inspired and you're walking around the expo, maybe you're meeting people, but the intimate connections that are actually formed when you're going to an event or you signed up for a workshop or you're getting hands-on feedback from people who live and breathe this, like the people who you're meeting at the booths, like imagine if you had time with just them giving hands-on feedback, like that's so incredible and it's such a great opportunity. And I'm sure there's people listening, and Adam, this has always been the case for you where people are like, you're crazy for doing this stuff, but like, why did you want to do this? I mean, you did mention earlier, it's like you want to bring people together, give them a place where we can all come and learn and not feel ostracized and connect, but like, why did you want to open this up to like other teams and coaches and make it so neutral?
I think you know what's funny is that there's like it's kind of a probably kind of be maybe, well, you're the psychiatrist, so maybe you tell me, but but I have this like this kind of guilt, a little bit of guilt from my success in this sport, you know. There's like it's like a heavy how do you I don't even know how to explain it, like a heavy undeserving feeling of all the success I've had. So, you know, I've done this for my whole life. And with that has come, you know, a lot of opportunities that I've taken advantage of, a lot of financial success, at, you know, young ages where, you know, all these things are, you know, greater than things that I would have really expected to ever obtain, you know. My gym's paid off, my house is paid off, you know, all these things. Like, it's just, the life is great, you know, and it's all come from fitness. You know, when I was growing up, you know, the neighborhood I grew up in wasn't so great. And I got in a lot of, you know, there's a lot of like scary scenarios and, you know, friends that aren't around anymore. And that was like how I grew up, you know, and so the thing that kind of kept me safe from the gangs and stuff like that was me being in a gym. And so it was always just like my safety place. And that's how it kind of started for me. I was kind of running from trouble. And so I stayed, you know, from the young age, like 13, when that problem started happening for me. I just worked out in the gym, and I was working out there like 3 hours a day in the gym. I didn't go to any parties. I didn't go to any events because I was always afraid. And the gym always was like my safety net, you know. It was just, and then because of that, I met a lot of good people in the gym. I met a lot, like all my friends were just like bodybuilders and adults that were bodybuilders. And I just really, like, the sport kind of took me in and it took me off that path of when I was younger. And I was just trying to run away from that path, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, my cousin, he was killed in a shooting, and the gang that was doing that was kind of terrorizing the neighborhood. And my aunt, of course, she's a good aunt, good mom to him. She was looking for the guy, obviously, who killed him, right? So she had like lookouts, you know, and she had signs up and all these things. But because she was so aggressively pursuing this guy with police sketch drawings and stuff, they were essentially like sending warnings to our family and stuff. So they shot up my grandma's house. They were looking for anyone who's related. And so I had to kind of hide, you know? And so the gym was my place. And I feel like it wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be just like, okay, this keeps me safe. I'm off the streets. I'm in the neutral territory. Like, I'm not going to get shot here. And I was only like 13 years old, but I was like scared for years. And I just stayed there, you know. I stayed in the gym, and it'll be just turned into like, okay, this is where I'm at now. These are my friends now. I'm young and they're older. How do I kind of like grow in this area. And it was like, okay, well, if I learn about fitness and I can share these fitness tips with these guys, like they respect me, like they start like they started like asking me questions, you know, and I thought it was like the coolest thing. So it just went from that to working in a supplement shop at like 15 years old and like being like the local guy. And it was just, I thought it was so cool to know stuff and help people, because that was the only way that like the only interactions I had was in the gym and now in the supplement store. And I just didn't do anything else. I didn't go to parties. I never went to any school dance. I had to go to a different high school because the high school I was at, the problems were there. So I had to go to a different high school. So like my whole life was like kind of shoved into this gym thing.
Yeah.
And so, which I don't like telling it too much because people like, I feel like people like feel sorry for, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. So, the reality is like, I was kind of put in this position for safety. And then it turned into this position of like great success, you know? And so I don't know what kids are out there going through those things. I don't know if there's another one like me out there doing that, but I thought, you know, when I was growing up and I looked up to all these bodybuilders, like I thought it was so cool whenever I saw one of them, whenever I met one of them. You know, and like now, even my life now, it's funny as I look in a magazine and I'm like, oh, I got that guy's number in my phone. I got that guy's number in my phone. Oh, I went to dinner with that guy last week. Like that's how I, and before it was like, I would do anything just to meet these guys, to work out with them would be like a dream come true. But to actually, now I can train them, you know, now I can actually, they'll be like, yeah, take me through a workout, you know? And so it's kind of cool how life will be there for you, even at like the darkest times, what it can unlock for you. And so I want to, you know, facilitate that hopefully for the next, you know, the next Adam Bonilla coach who's wants to come up, who's maybe, you know, finding his safe place in the gym, or just create those opportunities. Cause like, what if, you know, you might be just like some young, you know, 18-year-old bikini competitor. And then you go to this Olympia thing, you saved up all your money to do it. You can't really afford any of these like big name coaches or whatever shows yet or whatever, but you got to come to the Olympia, use all your money from your job that you're doing, which, you know, whatever it is. And you got to pose with Ashley, you know, the best competitor, bikini competitor there ever was. You know, you got to pose with Laura Lee, who will probably be here too. I'm sure she'll be here actually. Like you got to do these things and you're like, man, you're going to leave so inspired, and it might just change your whole course of your life, you know? Or I could be, you know, a jerk with my gym and not let anyone in ever, and just my team only who could afford it. And that would be, I don't think that would be the purpose that God gave me this. I don't think that would God put this success in my life for any other reason besides to help as many people as possible, you know? And so I take that like responsibility on of that success on as a great reward, but also as a great task and purpose that I'm set out to do. Because there's very few people who've had the success that I had in this sport, like very, very few. To be honest, I don't really know of many at all. I think there's like a few. So, and I think that those people, if you are those people, you should maybe do more for the community as much as you can, because you shouldn't be doing as well as you are doing something so easy and fun, you know? So yeah, so there you go. There's the long of it.
Oh my gosh. No, I love your story so much, Adam. And you can just hear like your passion and your purpose every time, you know, and it radiates from the work that you do and how you show up. And I love the message of giving back to the community, because a lot of people expect things from this community. Like they want to take and take and take, but when you can give back and when you have the opportunity to, and then you actually choose to, whether that's with knowledge or even just energy and like how you show up and supporting other competitors. And so for people listening who want to come to this, not only are they like given this great opportunity, and it probably will change their life even just to make these connections, but it's also an opportunity for attendees, I think, to support other competitors and make those really lifelong lasting connections. And it could turn into like what you've experienced, where now you have like people who are really, really well known, who you would have killed to just have a lunch with. You're now like good friends with, buddies with, or you connect with consistently. And that came from your heart and passion and really putting your all into this. And I think you're giving space to other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely fun, and it's hard to justify. And I think that's the biggest part of it, where people run into the problem, because like this building here, it's just an expense. There's no profit with it. I could do this from home and save myself $1 million, because that's really what it costs to have this building was $1 million. And so, but to let people come here for free, to not have any business growth from it whatsoever, it's just, it doesn't make sense financially to do it, but it also doesn't make sense financially to keep it all to yourself. I think it makes less sense to keep it all to yourself and just, whatever, invest and buy houses or whatever to make more money that I don't use, to not better the community, just to be selfish. I think that's like the worst thing we could do. So, so when I have like, friends that are like business people are like, why do you do that? It's just an expense. Like, you're losing money. You're not making any rent. You're not doing, I'm like, dude, it's not about that. It's never been about that part of it. So, and in the end, I can sell this one day and get it back, most of it at least. So, so yeah, it's, for me, it's like, it's worth a lot more to come here, to have a place to just like not be at home and actually come to work, and be able to have these events than it is to make money off of it. But we actually are trying to get a bigger building, which will be cool when we do. And, we'll see if it actually happens. We just got turned down on an offer we put in the other day, which would have been cool, because it would have been, I know it was a huge building. It was beautiful too, but they said no on the offer because they wanted to keep the lease in place. But we're trying to get something even bigger and hopefully more community based. And we're probably going to team up with like a local gym and still do stuff like this. And then they'll like run the gym, and we'll have a bigger prep center and have more things going on all the time. So, space is the issue at this point.
Wow, that would be super cool.
Yeah. I would like to have it where like we could have floating people like you, where they're like, oh, we have 2 offices that are floating offices where, Celeste is in town for the weekend, or Celeste is in town for a month. I don't know. And she has that office and that type of thing. Cause right now all of our offices are taken up, but, yeah, that's where we want to get to as well. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, your vision just keeps expanding, and the core of it's always been giving back. And I think that this experience coming up has a lot of exclusive opportunities that there's not many chances really. I mean, there's seminars and there's events and things like that I would encourage anyone to attend and go to, but like, this is such a cool opportunity to come together for the biggest event of the year and get exclusive access to like hands-on support, guidance, coaching that otherwise wouldn't be available all at the same time. So I think it's something that, we want to promote this and share this because it's going to be really cool. And I think everyone who's coming to the Olympia, if you already have your ticket or you're already planning to be there, like plan a few extra days, come to the contest prep center and experience some of the events and seminars and be on the lookout for that, because it's going to be epic, really.
Yeah. And all the events, and here's going to be the main issue and why we're going to have multiple of them. On the like bikini posing events and on anything that I'm personally running, I'm not going to have anyone have a charge. There's not going to be any charge for any of it. So it's just going to be a matter of volume of per event. So that's why I'll have like multiple posing classes and multiple things, multiple bikini workshops. But I will have some people that are like guests that are like flying in for this, and obviously they got to cover their stuff. So they're going to charge whatever they charge to cover that. Which is, for like their training sessions or things like that. So, trainers, if you're out there and you're a known trainer, or you're just a trainer, who wants to do some sessions or whatever, you could message me on that too. You could do your stuff here. I don't mind you doing it. Just make sure you have like your insurance and send that to me, but I'm happy to facilitate that too. But you know what, Celeste, you know what you do, which is great because you give back a lot to the community too, but you're always the interviewer. You're never the interviewee. And you need to talk about what is it that you're going to be doing with your seminar here? Because I need to know that. Everyone else wants to know that. What are you going to cover, and what would be like the benefit for someone, wanting to go into it farther with you?
Hell yeah. Well, first of all, you've always been such a great interviewer of me. And if you guys are wanting to hear more of my voice, Bikini and the Brain podcast, I've done 2 interviews. One of them we did live, which was so cool, in person. And if you guys want to check those out, go to the YouTube channel or look it up on iTunes, Spotify, etc. But as far as the event that I'm doing at the Contest Prep Center for this Olympia week, it's going to be on Wednesday, December 14th. and we're going to go from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it's really like the intention of this is to bring mental health to competitors. That's always been the mission, is to help competitors build more than just a body. So how we do this is we focus on making peace with food, establishing a healthier relationship with your goals. And what that looks like is identity work, personal development, exploration of like, what are your goals? Are they realistic? What are your standards? What are your expectations? We want to be really clear on your lifestyle on and off prep. It's about establishing love for yourself in this journey. And the body image work we do is not just like exploring what body image is, but we're going to be doing a lot of hands-on work too. Like everyone who comes gets a workbook and we go through this together. And what I love about hosting these events is seeing the women connect on really deep levels, because a lot of the mental health side of this sport, I think, gets swept under the rug, or competitors don't feel supported with, or they don't know how to talk about it because they think they're expected to be perfect or 110%, and no one can know that they're binging. No one can know that they've struggled with how they look in the mirror. No one can know these things because that would make them less of an athlete, less of a competitor. So my intention has always really been to give competitors a space to not just talk about these things, but actually resolve them, and hopefully get to a place where they have greater adherence, more fulfillment, feeling empowered in any season, and developing a community where they can talk about these things and they know that it's okay and there's always a path through it. And you don't have to give up competing to have a healthy relationship with food or your body. So I bring a different approach from the mental health perspective, because a lot of competitors are like afraid to go and do the mental health things because they're usually told by mental health providers like, oh, you need to quit competing and this is bad for you. Whereas my approach is very different because I'm a competitor. I get it. And everything I've developed for these events and the work that I do in general with competitors is with athletes in mind, and knowing that your goals are achievable and attainable even while you're on your path to healing. So we're going to be focused on a lot of those things, and it's open discussion, but we want to really develop that mindset required and learn the psychology and personal development tools that help you to love your body, to have a healthy relationship with food, to have a fulfilling prep or improvement season, and really connect so deeply with your goals that they feel like a non-negotiable. So that's really like my focus at this mastermind, is hopefully women will show up. There is a ticket price for this. So if you guys want to learn more about the event, you can go to buildmorethanjustabody.com to purchase that. And I'm going to be doing lots of goodies and giveaways as well. But that's like a good gist of the experience.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's pretty cool. I like hearing it. You know, what's funny is that you say, when I have someone who's struggling, I'll send them your way. You know, you're on our actual website and all that too. But it's funny is that like, there's certain things that I don't even, know that you do. And when you said, people are kind of hidden about their struggles and that they might be binging, or they might have like body dysmorphia of some type and like struggle with that. That caught me off guard, because I didn't realize that some people didn't realize that was pretty much everyone,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. And that's the thing about this sport. And if this just gives you creating some awareness, if you're one of those people that are struggling, this will give you some awareness from like a coach, from a coach's perspective, who's worked with thousands of athletes over his career. And even myself, like when I first started lifting weights, I got into it because I had like a bad body image. Even at like 12 years old, I broke my arm, I gained some weight. My sister made fun of me, and then she called me fat. And then the next thing you know, I always thought I was fat. That's what started the workout thing in general, right? Where I joined the gym, and then I just stayed there because of the other things. But I don't know any competitors who don't have some issues with that. Like usually this sport kind of brings people that are super body aware already. And so, it's kind of like a very normal thing almost in this sport, where people have those like issues going into it, whether it's a food one, whether it's the body image issue. Like it you kind of have to be aware of your body to even be considering getting into this sport. And then when you get to the sport, you're kind of hyper aware of it. So then it almost like funnels people that have that more likely sensitivity to it to the sport. So if you're one of those people, just know, I would say a large percentage of people doing this sport are going through those same things.
100%. I'm really glad that you said that. Like, it's not abnormal, and it actually, I think we have to expect it with this sport too. Like, we're in a sport where we're literally being critiqued for our physique. So what are we going to do? We're going to look at our body all the time and we're going to critique it, or we're being compared next to other girls. So you may fall into a comparison trap, or we're seeing a connection between how we eat and how our body responds, which forms a deeper association between like a pre-existing body image viewpoint and pre-existing food relationship viewpoint or beliefs. So when those things get reinforced time and time again, we just have to expect that in this sport, there are red flags or risk factors, but that doesn't mean they can't be worked through. It's just like if you're going to go skydiving, you sign a waiver, you accept the risk. So when you decide to compete, you're accepting there's some risk to doing so, but it doesn't mean you can't have a parachute and prepare yourself, right? Like, you can actually set yourself up to be really successful in this sport and have a positive experience, one where you're not constantly judging yourself or your choices, and you actually feel that you can sustain this for the long term rather than having ups and downs, highs and lows, doubting yourself or feeling really good about yourself, or everything being about your body, or never being able to be present in any moment for the rest of your life because all you do is think about food. I mean, like, that's a very real thing that happens to competitors, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we can have that fulfillment and that joy and that empowerment from this sport without all the fixation. And I think that's really like what I hope competitors can see and get out of this event too, is that they'll walk away having actual tools, resources, and activities and things that they can continuously apply moving forward. That's going to benefit them in any season. So it's not taking away from their life, but they can really feel what it is and feel what it means to have bodybuilding align with your values as a person, align you with what you actually want in your life outside of this sport, and to know that you're going to be okay as long as you take your mental health and the tools that you're learning just as seriously as you would like following through on your meal plan or your macros or your training sessions. Like, you, or even posing, you know, like if you could bring mental health into that, you're going to be such a more well-rounded athlete in person.
I think for sure. And also longevity of it too, you know, like if you're wanting to be the next Miss Olympia, like you're going to have to be pretty tough mentally to get there, you know. And it's not just tough and working out and sticking your diet, but like everything that comes with it. There's a lot that comes with it, whether it's, you know, people online talking, or you not wanting to be in your, you know, at a show because you're not competing and you're a little bit in your off season and don't feel so great. Like there's a lot of mental toughness that every Miss Olympia has, you know. And I think that people underestimate that part of it. And over the years, being a coach, you know, it's funny because when I started, it was just, there was no mental like awareness of anything, right? They're like the mental side of things. It was just like, just be tougher. You know, it was like, that's all it ever was. And bodybuilding, it kind of breeds that, right? It's like, especially with the guys, like it's just like, well, like when you're growing up, it's like, well, don't be so weak. Like, why, like, you know, you cheated on your diet. Why are you so weak? Like, it's a different thing. And so as the years have come by, what we found was that kind of like ostracized people. And it was like, people were like, oh, I guess I'm weak. You know, I guess that I'm not made for it because I'm that way. And then as it became more of like a more open, people were more like able to say that they were struggling with that. Before, like you kind of couldn't even say anything. It was like, oh, if I say anything, I'm a wuss, you know, I can't do that. And you find out like everyone's really going through, but no one's talking about it. And then nowadays it's like everything has become almost 50-50. Like, you know, your mental game in this and your physical game are just as important. And I've been learning this more as the years have gone on. I think I said it on your podcast once. There was a girl I had in my life a long time ago. She was in school for psychology, and she was like, Adam, I think that you're like, she's like, I think that you're one of the best coaches in the world in terms of your application. She's like, but in terms of the mental game, like you don't see how you're just too, like, you're too tough because of your upbringing in the gym around a bunch of bodybuilders, that you don't see how it's hard for a bikini competitor to like follow her diet. And you just like, just follow it. Like, you don't get it. It's not that. And like, that was like, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years ago. And I was like, okay, maybe she's right, you know? And then
Mhm.
like learning about it more and diving into it more, I was like, man, this is so crazy that it's so much farther than just stick to your meal plan, you know? And so, it's cool to see that just like you have to build your muscles, you have to build your ability to adhere to a diet, you have to build your ability to be mentally tough in this game. And I think that it's great that you're creating awareness of that. And that it's being more, not just more like out there for people, but more so people can like accept, okay, I'm struggling with this too. And so are so many people. Even like a coach, like even if you're like, even a coach like Adam, his athletes are struggling with that too, you know, and he even uses Celeste for her services because his athletes even do it too. Right. So I think that it's good that you're putting it out there so people can actually see that they're normal and they're not weak, you know. And I think that's been one of the bigger evolutions of bodybuilding in the last, like really the last like 10 years more than anything. So thanks for you doing that and you doing your work on creating that path and trailblazing that path
Oh,
on
thank
that
you.
side. I think you're the only one I know that's really doing it in the competitor area in bikini, at least.
For
So
sure. And at the capacity I'm doing it. But I always say I want to be the best because I'm the best, not because I'm the only one. And that's why I pride myself in like the education and learning from my girls and like really investigating this further and like not detaching from what our competitors experiences because it is so common and we need to be able to have these conversations and we need to be able to give people a space to process it because I think with the changes over the last 10 years plus with the bodybuilding world is like people are seeing there's many ways to get to the end result. So when you recognize there's more ways to get there, that gives more choice, which is really great because choice is freedom. But with that comes responsibility. So there's a responsibility on an athlete's behalf to figure out what is the best approach for them, what's going to help them be able to sustain success in the long run. And also you brought up the point about like champions, right? Like if you want to become Miss Bikini Olympia, for example, well, and then there's that longevity piece in there, but also are you willing to accept or change your life in the way that it could change when you do start winning, when you take on titles, when you change your identity completely to that of a competitor, because a lot of people aren't even ready for that identity shift. So part of competing is like, yes, you're going to be implementing behavior changes like your diet and your training that morph you into competitor. But if you mentally still see yourself as the woman who was stuck in XYZ of her past or a previous body or previous lifestyle, you'll never actually progress in the way you want. And you'll probably end up self-sabotaging. So a big part of what we're going to focus on is the identity shift. Like this is so important. We need to identify any resistance that someone could have to becoming and owning their champion mentality. Because people say they want to be a champion until they realize that a champion still has a target on their back. So can you be prepared for that? And are you prepared for the changes that come with it? What does it mean to be a champion to you? And how does your identity currently support you in that and not? Like it goes so deep, Adam. Like I get like so worked up about it, but there's identity shifts that are required to support someone in actually executing on their programming and getting the most out of this experience and really being able to accept success too and embrace it. So yeah, I could go on.
yeah, I think that's funny that you mentioned that part because the accepting the success part, I see people really struggle with that. That's I never even really thought about that as a thing that you would focus on, but it's pretty cool that you've realized that and recognized that because it's a huge factor, like a huge factor that girls don't realize because once they get that burden of expectation is extreme, you know. And people don't really get it, you know, when it comes to that stuff. When you win, like you win a pro show or something, like all of a sudden now you're the favorite. So now you go into the next show thinking, you know, you only won one show. So your expectations for you is like, oh, I hope I get a first call out. But everyone else's expectations for you is like, oh, she's going to win again because she just won. And then you get like second call out and you're like, oh man, she really messed up. I wonder what she did wrong. And it's like, no, that's not the reality. It's just the reality is she's won one show. like that's where she's still learning, and she's still coming up, but it could be such a crushing blow to people. And I've seen it happen before where it just like knocks girls out, where they just can't deal with the swings, And so that's pretty cool that you're going into that. And the same thing happens with coaches too. Like when you start getting successful and people start knowing who you are, like there's this whole undertaking of that, of dealing with that too, that people don't really get too. So it goes on multiple levels. So
yeah, it's like it's a bit of that like imposter syndrome that can come up.
yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. And it could go, I see it go a bunch of different ways too. Sometimes I feel like people feel like they're undeserving, and then I feel like people think that they're they're the best there ever was, like right away, like it's like, it goes both ways. And I've seen it happen so many times, and I went through it before too, when I was first like becoming, I guess if you want to say a higher level coach, like there's a pretty big adjustment to that. So being a higher level athlete and you're even more eyes on you than coaches, I mean, I can't even imagine, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, like when people have that focus on being perfect, or maybe they have a fear of failing, or they have this need for success, they often will like downplay their abilities as almost like a protective mechanism against disappointment, shame, judgment, bad expectations from others, or the impact of those expectations. And then when people think others have high expectations of them, they can experience higher levels of stress from the fear of being exposed. Like, what if I'm exposed for being a fraud? Like, what if they thought I was going to win this show and then I dropped XYZ placings, or I didn't even make first call outs, and now like I've been exposed. I really am this person that I thought I was. Like, I'm not good enough, or I have this perceived fraudulence that's now been recognized in others. And a lot of times, like, that can lead to that feeling of imposter syndrome or not being enough, because we're really trying to protect ourselves from what we fear, rather than saying like, okay, what I desire, what I want is something that I deserve. And I know I'm not a fraud because here are the actions I've taken. And here's the evidence that supports that the success I have or haven't achieved is actually like real. And then we can be honest with ourselves. And then that reduces the kind of like egotistical view. And instead it promotes like a more competent based view, where people are owning their success because they recognize their competence. They're not just owning it because they want to be that person or they think they should be.
And you find this to be like a common thing with competitors who are doing well?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say either doing well or want to do well. Like, I'll hear competitors be like, I want to go pro, I'm on my road to pro, but then they're like sabotaging themselves a lot.
Okay.
And then also like on the other side, like some of the girls that I've interviewed, I actually just interviewed someone who, Brittany Gillespie, actually, she won the overall at nationals in Miami in 2021. But anyway, we're talking about like that pressure she felt like kind of going into the shows, and other competitors have brought this up too. Like, there's this pressure, and if you fall behind on that pressure, you almost can feel like maybe you've deceived other people. But like when you rise up to it, it's kind of more affirmation. But regardless, like as competitors, I think we need to focus on like, if we're executing, then we are living the identity, as long as the execution is the process that's best for us. But people will sometimes say, I'm on my road to pro, but their actions don't actually align with that.
Makes sense. You know what, Celeste? I feel like talking, like I've known you for years now.
Yeah.
But I'm talking to you now, and you seem like a very speak very eloquently, and you've progressed as doing what you do now to another level. I'm noticing it as I'm talking to you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're doing good. You're getting to the next level. Before you were like NPC level podcast host slash, are you therapist, psychiatrist? What do we call you now?
I don't know.
Okay, now you're IFBB level psychiatrist. You might be.
You.
I feel like you'd be qualified for the Olympia at this stage. Like, probably there in the psychiatry realm. Good job, Celeste.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's my assessment. My assessment of the situation.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Like, seriously, it's like that devotion to work, and that like you've learned so much over the years in your work, and I'm always learning, and that's a commitment that I continue to have. So I appreciate you saying that, because that means that it shows.
Yeah, no, I can, you're doing it better now. You're speaking more eloquently. You're right on it. You're keeping your train of thoughts. Like, you're not getting lost in the conversations. Like, you're really getting very good at this. So
Thank
congratulations
you.
on that. Yeah, no, this is, I mean, I've been doing podcasts for a long time too, and interviews and all this stuff for like, like 9-10 years, something like that. So like, you pick up on someone who's experienced and who's not, you can see it like right away. Like, it's like, oh, this is like a hobby to them. It's not like a thing, And so
Yeah.
no, you're very good at this. And there are levels to this too. So good job on that. And I can imagine that your business, because of this too, has been, with how you're with your clients, it's just grown and immensely with how your skill set is with that too. So yeah, that's really cool. I really like to see anyone grow,
Yeah.
I think that that it's important to celebrate other people's successes too. I think too often people will think of other people's success as them taking away from themselves, I see this happen a lot with coaches in general. Like, coaches that probably drive me like the most crazy, because if there's a new coach on a come up, I'm like, good for you, dude. Like, I'm not going to make it easy on you. I'm never going to do that. But if you're doing it based on your raw skill set and you're able to, outposition yourself in shows with me here and there, like, good, hats off to you, because that's not going to be easy to do. So like, I'm always like celebrating of it. I think that's it, that we should all do that more. It would make everything better, So yeah. So anyway, with that, what else is there, Celeste? What do we got going on the rest of this podcast?
You know what? I think we just let people know like how they can stay in touch with like when this is happening, or like how they can be part of the events. So for me personally, you guys can visit buildmorethanjustabody.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. That's where you can purchase a ticket for my portion and my contribution to this. And Adam, where will people be able to see updates as far as like what'll be happening at the Contest Prep Center?
So the best thing to do would be to go to well, on Instagram, I'm gonna post everything Team Elite Physique on Instagram. I'll also be posting everything on the website, teamelitephysique.com. But what I will do is I will, anyone who wants this information sent to them, I'll put it out through text message, which is probably like the easiest way. So if you want to text, just text event to 303-536-3766. I'll make sure that you're on that list, and you'll get updates and stuff to your text on little tips and freebies and things like that. But it'll also give all the event stuff. And I'm still getting more people involved, but I will say that there's someone will be excited about. I'll announce it later, but we'll just say they're a glute specialist in Florida who's coming in to help teach one of the classes. There's going to be, we're going to do a few posing classes. I imagine we're going to have a cutoff and run out of room a few times. We're probably going to do like 3 of them. I'm for sure Ashley's going to be part of that. I do think there's going to be other Olympians I'm talking to that are going to be part of that. There's going to be other coaches that are going to be part of that too. So there's going to be a whole bunch going on here. So just, keep in touch on that way, because some of these things are still lining up. But yeah, I'm hoping. And if you have, what's cool too, is if you guys have something that you can bring to the table and you want to add it to it, and it makes sense, then shoot me that info. And I would love to add as much as possible to that day, to that week, really.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that idea. And I appreciate that you opened up that opportunity for other people to reach out. So again, that's event to 303-536-3766. I got that right, I hope.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I wrote it down while you were saying it, so don't give me too much credit. But yeah, definitely sign up for that so you guys can get updates. I'm really looking forward to it. It's always so fun to come to the Contest Prep Center. I had a blast the last event we did. There's some videos of that on the website too. So if you guys have any questions or you want to reach out, I know Adam is always open to that. I'm definitely open to that. So if you want more clarity on this, or you have something that came out of this podcast that made you think of other things, let us know. And I mean, I'm sure me and Adam will do more of these in the future, as we always have said we will, and we end up doing it. So appreciate you guys listening. And Adam, thank you for coming on again.
Of course. What we have to do is I'll have to tell Ashley too, when we have to have you on again, because it's been a little while. So
yes,
when you're out here. Yeah, when you're out here,
evolution. Yeah. Well, and when I come out there, like my physique will have evolved as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
You want to
last time
talk
I was
about
in,
that for a second, Celeste? Am I putting you on the spot too much?
no, no. Last time I came out, I was like in like depths of the improvement season, and I was going through so much like personally after the loss of my mom. And I honestly, Adam, like I was executing on my plan. I wasn't binging, wasn't having any issues like that. I just gained a lot of weight. And then luckily now, like I've just been in a groove with my prep, and I'm taking an even better approach. And I really just see like I'm learning every single season. But yeah, last time when we did it in person, I was like, dang, I look at that video, I'm like, girl, what? I think I went too far. And then that's where I actually recently learned, like, I have a lot of confidence in myself, regardless of my body, which is great because I've healed a lot. But I also am recognizing now, like, okay, where I was at was not where I will ever be in the future, but it was still beneficial to my growth as an athlete. So yeah, next time I see you in December, well, I'll see you at Sin City, which will be awesome. But in December, I'll be a couple probably weeks into a reverse if I'm not competing again at the end of the year. But I feel okay with where I was at. It's just funny, like the physique will definitely be different. I don't plan to go up that high again.
Well, I think that's, what's funny is I feel like, and I know there's going to be a lot of girls on your podcast that are listening that have gone through that or are going through that. I think, and I think I'm probably the most outspoken coach about like, hey, don't do that. Like, cause it's so hard, but even I've done that. Like, even I've done it, so like, I think that everyone kind of goes through it once. Ashley's done it once, like it's just, I don't know. It's just like, it's almost like a lesson that you hope no one has to go through. I don't think anyone has to go through it, but it's something that everyone, I think, or a large percentage of the competing world goes through it, I'll say. And more times than not, they will, learn that lesson, never go back there again. Or they just like stop competing. But more times than not, I think they just go through it once, like, okay, that maybe I went a little bit too much or whatever. And then they just stick to it, and like, and then they just reverse right. And they have more of a mental awareness of it the next time after their show that, hey, this could happen very quickly. It sneaks up on you. And, the next thing you know, you're like, man, I gained some weight. Right. So
yeah. And honestly, like I was proud of myself too, because it didn't come from anything like binging. So like the actions that I was taking were still very aligned with like the lifestyle I wanted to live. I think I just went like too high with the calories, or I went to, it's like I learned, and I'm okay with it. Like, honestly, I was really comfortable in my skin anyways, but it is funny when you look back and you're like, okay, yeah, like you may not have been binging, you may have been in a really good spot mentally, but that probably wasn't fully necessary to grow that much. So but I wanted to mention that because I think like a lot of times people associate like weight with only with binging or only with negative decisions or choices too. And that's not always the case, but yeah, it is a learning experience. And I think we'll find a better sweet spot.
Yeah. And I think, based just knowing you I think they're just one of those people that have to be just probably a little bit more calorie restricted, a little bit higher movement in the off season than some others. There's some people who can just do whatever they want in the off season and they're lucky and blessed. And then there's some people who aren't, like I'm forever calorie watching, it's funny because I go through the same thing now, just at a different level. Cause, obviously, Kimber, she's a bikini pro and like looks amazing all the time. And even me, and I'm like, when I see her, I'm like, gosh, you're a work of art. I'm like this hairy gorilla, I'm like, she's like, oh, I have this like huge double shower in the house. And like when she first moved in, I'd be like, she's like, why don't you take like showers like with me, like in the big shower, you should be. I'm like, you're a work of art. You're like a sculpture. You ever seen a wet gorilla, like a gorilla hose with water? I'm like, it's different. Like, and then you have to like, even those little things like everyone struggles with, it was like a real thing. She's like, you're crazy. Like, just do it. And so like, now it's no problem, but it's funny that even at any level, you kind of like, there's always that, there's always that thing. You could be better. Someone else is better. There's, that thing that we all struggle with. And I think, I'm glad that you bring awareness to it. I could joke about it because I don't care. What's funny is another thing that happens when you climb the ranks is that at a certain point, you just don't give a shit anymore,
Yeah.
And so I could say things like that, but before I'd be embarrassed. Right. But
totally
at a certain point, like when you're known and really well known, if you're a bikini pro or your bikini pro listening, or someone who's on the come up and you win something or whatever, like just know you're going to get, like, let's say 100 people say nice things about you. You're going to get like 5 people that just like destroy you and talk shit on you. They'll be like, oh, I don't know why she won. She looked like she's trans or something. You know, like that's just the meanest, like cruelest things they could possibly say. And the problem is that the bikini people, that they'll ignore the 100 positive things that people say, but they'll focus on those like 5 anonymous things that people are saying, right? From anonymous accounts that are just trying to hurt you because they're jealous or whatever. Like there's this whole like evolution of growth that you go through where you just don't give a shit anymore. You realize, okay, as long as you're talking about me, I'm cool with it. Like just as long as I'm still relevant to the point where you're talking about me, I don't care. You know, so it's funny how we talk about, you know, the burden of success and, you know, how you grow and you don't feel deserving of it. The other things that come with the success is like the more people know you, the more they're gonna the more the haters are gonna talk. It might be a very small percentage of them, but they're usually the loudest, you know? So I think that's important to talk about too, because when you put yourself on a stage to be judged and in social media to be known, like that comes with it, you know? And so it's just kind of funny because these days I just got to the point where I'm just like, I just say whatever I want. But if you look like earlier in my podcast, I'm like super reserved and I'm hyper aware of what everyone says and what they think. And I'm trying to please everyone. And it's funny because they like kind of mold you into someone you're not, you know, you're conformed into this like obedient, like non-opinionated, you know, so like societally correct, politically correct guy. And it's just like, you're like, that's not me. And so now it's like, now I'm just raw and how I am. And if you don't like it, then I really don't care, you know, but
I love that.
Yeah, it takes time though. It's an evolution, you know, and I love that we talk about it on your podcast a little bit because people who are trying to come up, like, hey, it comes with some weight, you know? So but anyway, that's for another podcast, I guess.
I know. Look at us. We always do this. Like we'll always be ending the episode and be like, but by the way, like here's a whole other topic.
How did that start with me saying I'm a hairy gorilla?
Yes, exactly.
It is what it is. I'm locked up now. I don't need to be attractive anymore.
That's the mindset. Well, right. Definitely give Kimber a hug for me.
I will. And I'll tell you, say hi. And then you have a good day and congrats to everything. And I'm excited to see you here in a few weeks. I've been seeing your pictures. You look ripped.
Thank you.
Ripped as shit, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Hope to show up and show out.
Yes. I'm gonna wish you luck, but if I have anyone in your class, I'm still coming for you. So we'll see.
Good. Let's bring it. I want to win because I earned that shit.
Yes, you know, I'll wish you whatever luck is right below the luck. I wish my girls right there.
That's fair. You have to do that as their coach.
I always tell everyone, every pro, like what I know them. I'm like, I'm wishing you like second place luck. I hope you do second place. Like you're so mean. I'm like, that's what I'm really thinking. That's absolutely what I'm thinking here.
Well, if you were saying you'd hope I beat your girls, I'd feel so bad for your girls. I'd be like, that's not right. So I'll accept what I can get.
It's funny because we have like all these like coach rivalries, but they're all like my friends. And if they win like over you, you're kind of like, oh man, screw that guy, right? But he's like your friend. But if you don't win and like, let's say you don't have anyone in the show, you're like hoping he won. So it's kind of funny. You're like, well, if I don't have anyone there, I hope he wins, right? It's like this whole like thing, but it's funny. We're all trying to like beat each other. And when we do, we like give each other like a little like, yeah, I got you, bro. Like, it's like one of those things, but it's really, really fun. I'll enjoy the rivalry. So it makes you better, you know, having someone to rival against makes you your best.
100%. We're all competitive in this game.
Yes, you have to be. So, all right. Well, I'll see you soon and you have a good one. And thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you. You know what? Another thing too, I feel like I had a good therapy session every time I talk to you.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can send me an invoice.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. I will talk to you soon. Appreciate your time.